Mabuhay, this is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Marriage skills matter more than knowing the Filipina that you marry. This will take a couple parts, so I'm just going to introduce it today. For those of you who have not had as much experience in dating as you'd like, but still want to get married, I hope this video will encourage you. Since my Filipina wife and I got married swiftly, only 54 days from across the world, you know as well as I do that there was a lot that we didn't know about each other. I don't believe we got married, hastily or haphazardly. We were two adults who made a decision together, a big one, albeit, to trust God it would work out and relying daily on His help. We each had needs and we were willing to meet each other's needs. We did not shut our minds off when going through this process to make this big decision. So there's knowing somebody. We didn't take a whole lot of time because you're going to continue to know them after you're married. And so I want to be talking about, especially next week, about why it's more important to be prepared to be married to someone. Now, I have seen people say, and I'm sure you have your own opinion about this, and you're welcome to leave a comment here, that it takes so many years or so much time to date someone in order to know enough about them. Enough for what? I understand where they're coming from. I might even be able to debate their position. On the other hand, I admit to saying at one time in my life, this was quite a number of years ago, that if you can't tell within 3 weeks if someone is a good marriage candidate, then you might be asking the wrong questions. I know that sounds presumptuous, preposterous, short-sighted, maybe dim-witted. Although this video isn't about getting married quickly per se, I should expound a little bit about this 3-week statement, even though this video in part 2 will be focusing on the importance of knowing certain things about marriage. And that's even more important than knowing everything about this woman so far away. Some things you need to know right away. Some things can wait. I believed that I could find out what I needed to know in 3 weeks of concentrated effort to find out what I needed to know. I wasn't expressing the idea that you could just hang out with each other, watching television, going to movies, stuff like that, and discover your compatibility. That can end up just being like stalling. Now, this also assumes a strong desire to get married on the part of the woman, in addition to the man. And that's a part that I found elusive over the years. I wanted to clarify that. And in the context, the statement stands about 3 weeks, being enough to know if there is potential there. I'm sure that many they'll think this is absurd. In this hypothetical 3 weeks, I thought if I could find a Christian woman and talk about what I considered the key elements of marriage, which is what I wanted to do with her, she shouldn't have, much to disagree with about that structure. And it would come down to her willingness and comfort level to trust that we could work out a good marriage someday. Wouldn't even say we had chemistry going that soon for us, other than finding out she was easy to talk to. But if that wouldn't be there, then likely I would have just moved on to the next prospect. If we were just, staring at each other on camera with a lot of silence, then that would indicate a likely compatibility issue, or maybe her English wasn't so good. So in that situation, I knew what I needed. Would discover that by asking questions. Hopefully she believed the same way and wanted to get married as badly as I did. I'm not suggesting this is the answer for anyone, or for everyone, by the way. Now, there's a Linktree link up above. You can see on your phone. You'll probably see on the computer too. And it'll go to my website, lvbts.com. Up in the resource section at the top, there's 4 different sets of questions to ask each other over progressive, comfort levels of getting to know each other. You just don't throw out the hard, heavy questions right away. You start slow, and then you build if you see something going. Those questions are all up there at lvbts.com. You can look at them or even print them off over there. it's going to take the rest of my life to get to know my Filipina wife. I've learned a lot. Many things get revealed early on, and then it tapers off as the years go by. Only by actually being married will a man and a woman know each other as fully as possibly. I don't think you have to do that before you get married. If your spouse chooses to hide something from you, then you won't know it. You can only know what you reveal to each other. But I would hope that in time, there would be no secrets. I don't think you have to know everything about her in order to get married. There's always going to be some surprises, maybe things that come out and things we just don't want to tell another person right away. Now, if you've seen my videos, you know that I was alone for a Guinness Book of World Records, I think, 30 years. 30 years without a girlfriend. In fact, when I called the Guinness Book of World Records and told them about it, they hung up on me. They laughed and said, they don't believe me. Come on, nobody goes 30 years alone. Who are you trying to kid? I probably wondered how I was supposed to become a good husband without even having a girlfriend. I knew I couldn't control the timing of getting married, but I was able to spend as much time as I wanted to learn about marriage and relationships, which is exactly what I did. And we'll talk about some of those things in the next video. I was not going to give up the hope of getting married. I wanted to be a good leader, so I spent much of those years learning as much as I could. There are a handful of things to know that do as much as possible to help the marriage succeed. Filipinas seem relatively easy to get along with. Nevertheless, marriage needs certain things to happen. And there are 4 of the more important ones that I will talk about in part 2 with, let's call it 4 necessities to a good marriage to a Filipina here on Love Beyond the Sea.